Hey, are you struggling to sign franchisees? Unlock the reasons, but more importantly, the solutions in today's episode of Franchise Pitfalls and Profits.
This is the Franchise Pitfalls and Profit Show. Each week, we bring you the challenges and triumphs of being in the franchise development and consulting business. The things you need to make money faster. And now your host, one of the most successful franchise developers in North America, Don Shin.
Hey, welcome back. I'm Don Shin. I am the host of the Franchise Pitfalls and Profit Show, where we help franchisors and anybody really in the franchise profession. We help you navigate the challenges of growth and unlock the full potential of your broker business or of your franchise brand. Today, we're going to dive into a really pressing issue that many franchisors face, many brokers face, and that is struggling to attract and then actually sign or make placements of your candidates into the franchise brands. You know, it feels harder and harder to build a franchise network, harder and harder as a broker to find the right and interested and serious candidates. But if you're struggling with this, you're not alone. But here's the good news. Today, we're going to dive into the topic. We're going to offer you solutions. Get your notebooks out. We're going to give you the combination to the vault that's going to unlock the secrets, unlock the solutions for effectively growing your brand or building your broker business. So let me paint a picture. Many people in Fran Dev, they just find themselves stuck. They're in this frustrating cycle, ghosting, missed deals. You know, you get somebody all the way to the altar. You know, you're left standing there at the altar. Your deals are falling apart at the very end after you've had months of time and build a relationship with people. Or sometimes you kind of hit a plateau. That this is specifically often with the brands. You're just not getting to move off of this general level, barely growing place. And again, I just call it a plateau. So you're pouring time, you're pouring money, you're putting in resources to develop leads. But you know, you just kind of feel like the old hamster on the wheel thing. You're just spinning your wheels. And so, if that sounds familiar, I want you to stay tuned. I want you to hang in there with me today because we're going to uncover some really critical questions about this. And I'm also going to begin to provide you with solutions that you can implement right away in your business. Get your notebook out because we're going to start giving you the things that will change the results that you've been experiencing. So, today we're identifying the hidden gaps in franchise sales. Not everyone knows these things. A lot of times I find in sales, people know what to do. They're just not doing it, or they know what to do and they get kind of sloppy and points in their process get, they fall through the cracks, or they're avoided. But the things I'm going to go over today are not so clear. They're not so well known. They're not so obvious. So this is a knowledge transfer. I'm going to pour knowledge and wisdom into you today. So let's get rolling. Again, get your notebooks out. Let's get rolling. So the first question on these hidden gaps is that, are you clearly communicating your value to your prospects? If you're a brand, do they understand the brand's value? As a broker, do they understand what you will really do for them, the value you truly bring to them as a candidate? So think about it. Your potential franchisees are flooded with options. They're looking for a brand that not only makes financial sense, but something that aligns with them, their objectives, their goals, their own personal mission, maybe their moral levels, their integrity levels, their levels of professionalism. So when you're talking to them, doing anything in franchise development, I remember, you've got to consider this. And I remember that a good friend of mine and mentor, Jeffrey Gitomer, he calls himself the king of sales. He has said often that when he's talking about franchising with me, he says, Don, that buyers are looking for two core things. They're looking to be successful, but they're also looking to be fulfilled. If your messaging is unclear, if it's vague, if it's too broad, then you just become another franchise in their sea of opportunities. And in some cases, honestly, you might just become noise because they're not seeing you clearly. So what makes your brand stand out? First of all, are you doing storytelling? Do you tell stories? Does your story then connect with your prospects emotionally? Write down the word emotion. Are you answering the why? Why does your brand exist? Why is it a great investment? Why is now the time to join your brand? But even more importantly, the last why is the why of purpose and fulfillment. What difference are you making in the world, either with your product or just the culture of your company? Do you franchisees embrace giving back? A great example is Jersey Mike's. I see Jersey Mike's on TV and they're advertising a lot. It seems like almost every quarter, certainly every 6 months or so, they have a massive, massive investment in their community, in their firefighters, whatever it might be. So people are looking for this. And does your brand stand out as a company that is more, that business means more to them than just making a profit? It's making a difference. And then, therefore, if it does, are you painting the vision of success? Are you painting the vision of fulfillment to your franchisees that goes beyond the financials? I think too many franchisors, they default to this industry and their company language and jargon, and they focus solely on the model. Honestly, this is selling the logic part of the decision. And while that's eventually needed, I've always taught and believe very strongly that 80% of the sale is emotion and only 20% is logic. So what most of you are doing, the mistake that most of you are making, is you're focusing on the thing that will have the least impact. And it seems counterintuitive, but it's true. It will have, when you talk about yourself and all the wonderful things about your model, your candidates need that to justify their emotional decision. So they need it. But you're probably spending 80% of your time on your model and your company and your bells and whistles, and not enough about how it's going to impact them personally, how it's going to fulfill them to own your franchise. So if your pitch doesn't excite, if it doesn't evoke a connection and community and emotion, you are losing candidates before you even get started. You may still spend 6 or 8 weeks with them, but you are missing them in the early stages. And just by working with them over and over in this logic versus emotional way, you're just not getting through. So action step number 1 here is to review your franchise pitch. Be honest with yourself. Ask yourself, is it compelling? Is it differentiating? Is it memorable? Is it emotional? Is it hitting on those emotional buttons? And if not, you need to refine it to ensure that your uniqueness comes out, comes across, that your value shines. All right. Second question I want to get to today is your follow-up process systemic? Does it work consistently, or does it fall off after a few efforts? Is it too focused on people doing it? versus, again, systemic and technology being part of your process. So here's a reality check. Most franchise sales are not made on the first conversation. You again, intuitively, you understand that. But did you recognize that research shows in sales overall, it takes 7 to 12 engagements, touch points before a prospect is going to make a commitment. Yet many franchisors give up after a couple of touches. They give up before they've even reached the person. And so, what is your system? Is it multi-touch? Does it nurture the candidate or the lead, if you will? Is even the process giving the people something that they can feel they've gotten value out of? Are you personalizing the touch-ups, the follow-ups, the engagement? Are you addressing their unique concerns and their unique goals and objectives? Are you tracking engagement and are you adjusting your communication accordingly? I believe in having a process, but as you have and you work with the person week after week after week, you need to start tweaking and customizing. You need to start listening. Again, that's for a whole nother episode, but you need to uniquely be listening to what's going on and making your communication adjustments. The worst mistake that you can make is assuming that their silence means they're no longer interested. Many prospects are busy. They're hesitant. They have a lot of reasons in franchising to have their shields up. A lot of them just need more education. So you're going to meet, and you're going to meet candidates at different levels. You're going to meet candidates in the very early stages of their interest in starting a business, and you may find people pretty deeply down the road. I remember as a master franchisee, my fastest sale was done in 3 weeks. And I'm like, wow, you're kidding me. 3 weeks? Well, yeah, because they were very engaged. We were introduced to them at a later stage when there was a change going on in the husband and wife's decision-making process. And they had looked at 2 or 3 other brands of other types, not competitors, but of other types of businesses. Boy, they knew exactly what they wanted to know. They knew exactly what they should look at. And bam, 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 they moved through the process very, very quickly. So your job overall, though, is to stay on their radar, recognizing they may be coming to you at the very, very early stages, or like the example I just shared, maybe very, very late in the game. Recognize this and adjust and be sure that if they're somewhere along that continuum, that you are staying on their radar. You are staying what I always like to call top of mind. And you are likely losing deals because you're not staying top of mind. You're losing deals because you're not being consistent in your follow-up. So the action step here is to audit your process specific to follow-up. Audit your follow-up process. How many touches are you actually making? How many touches do you have in place? If you don't have a CRM, get one. You can get ones that are simple, inexpensive, easy to customize until maybe you get more volume and more sophisticated at it. But you are losing deals because you are not being consistent with your follow-up. Okay, let me share one other thing with you here. We've got 2 actions so far. Hope you've written these down. You need to be reviewing your sales pitch after today. You need to be auditing your follow-up process. And then the third question I want to talk about, to give you a third thing to do, is going to be that, do you understand why prospects are disengaging? Or are you just kind of guessing? When a prospect ghosts you, do you know why? Or do you just go, chalk it up to that's what happens in this business, and you move on to the next one? Do you just think they weren't serious, engaged? And yet I bet you a lot of those people are moving on to another decision, another brand, another type of business. If you're a broker, they're moving on to another broker. Most franchisors never dig into this reason behind why candidates are disengaging. Brokers, I don't find any brokers that are really looking seriously at finding out what is going on in their process with them, maybe personally. And that is a major mistake. Without understanding these patterns, understanding what is causing them to bump out of your process, candidly, you're doomed to be making the exact same mistake over and over. You're going to get the same results over and over if you don't look at this and you don't make appropriate changes. So, some common reasons for this disengagement that I'm going to share with you. Unanswered objections. In sales, we traditional sales is you find there's this objection coming. It's really not a good thing. You hope it doesn't ever come, but it comes. You deal with it, and you hope they never bring it up again. I can tell you in franchise development, it is not good to let that thing fester. I can tell you that those kinds of objections, if not clearly addressed and answered completely, that's what's killing your deals. Again, you may still spend 6 or 8 weeks with them, but it's something that was back in the early stages that's still gnawing at them. It's still an objection that they didn't feel comfortable that you've overcome it. Again, it's another piece of how we work with people, things we train and in our training programs. It's as to what to do with that. But we have a process of call to call, being sure that anytime you sense that little bit of uncertainty and objection, that you go back over it with them on another call before you change the subject. Even if it's a problem, it's okay if you have a good understanding of it and answer and response to it. Not everything's rosy in every brand, but if you're just glossing over it or bouncing around it or trying to avoid it completely, I can tell you those are gnawing at the person and they're not going to move forward in a positive way. Another reason here is lack of urgency. They didn't see why they should act right now. And again, this is another area we train on, we teach on, we'll work with you on, and we dig into it more deeply. But there are things you can do. Again, we don't have time here today, but there are things you can do to create urgency without being pushy, without being salesy. A third thing on this, a third question is that sometimes they're just overwhelmed. This is something, again, I teach on it. I drill it into anyone that is one of our clients, is that you've got to balance. This is more of a long distance race. Won't call it a marathon, but it's more of a long distance race than a sprint. And you've got to measure and gauge how educated are they, how interested are they, and gauge how much information you're giving to them. Again, it's a whole part of building the right kind of process, the right kind of scripting, and so on. But you want to be very, very careful not to overwhelm them. If they feel overwhelmed, that is one of the great reasons why they're ghosting you. So if they feel overwhelmed in the process, again, they are just going to disengage. They may tell you it. You may have good enough of a relationship with them, but in most cases, they're just not going to return your phone calls and your emails and your messages. And then the last one is just kind of misalignment. They just feel off with the brands. Again, if you're a broker, with the brands you've shown them, or if you are the brand, they just don't feel there's a good fit. And it's okay. If they're not a good fit, if you are the franchisor, then wish them well, but you want to be sure there's always alignment, because it's bouncing them out of your system. So the best franchisors collect data on these lost leads. Some will try to conduct exit surveys. All, again, the best ones will be monitoring the objections and working toward good professional responses to those objections, or fixing problems. If they're finding out problems that are objections in their Fran Dev space, they're going to fix those problems so those objections don't come up anymore. They'll engage. This is a big one. Boy, if you take nothing else away from today's episode, this is the one you want to take away. They stay engaged with their leads. Every lead that doesn't buy should go into a database and what I call a drip or a constant touch system. I can remember personally several leads that because we did this, we closed. I won't name names, but I can remember specific people that came back 1 year, as long as 2 years later, and bought. I remember going to the IFA convention 1 year, and there was a restaurant chain that was on stage, and they talked about their Fran Dev, and they said that 25% of their sales the previous year were from leads that they first engaged 2 or more years ago. Think about that. You are losing sales because you think once they're through your process and they don't buy, they're done. You need to build up a drip system. Again, too much to get into for this episode, but you want to build, and you can do this with automation. You can do this with CRMs and other e-marketing solutions, but you want to stay engaged with them. Very, very important. You are losing sales because you're not staying engaged with people that say no right now, but buy down the road. If you don't do this, they're buying from someone else. They're buying a different brand, a competitor, or maybe even something totally different. But you are losing sales over not building the drip system, not using the automated CRMs, and staying in touch with your leads that are done in your active process. So your third action step to write down for today is to start documenting and analyzing why your prospects are disengaging. Stop relying on your gut instincts, rely on real data, and then that's going to allow you to make some changes. That's going to give you an opportunity to do some things differently and make some positive changes. So, closing thoughts simply, none of these gaps are massive issues or problems standalone. But when you stack them all up, when you add them all up, when you combine them, they create a huge problem for your sales pipeline. Fixing just one of them, clarifying your brand's value, maybe improving that follow-up system, having a CRM system and automation that is then engaging them on an ongoing basis, even if they're out of your active sales process. So understanding that disconnect and disengagement, this is going to mean tens of thousands of dollars to you, even maybe millions, depending on your growth and what your overall franchise brand looks like. So let's talk about, but before we end here today, I just want to talk about how to really address fixing some of these problems and honestly being serious about addressing what's going on in your business. We have created what we call the Franchise Growth Vault program. Podcasts are great. I hope you learned. I hope you take something away and you do something with it. But we're just scratching the surface here today. And the long-term solution, if you are serious, it's addressing these gaps and other things in your business, addressing them head on, addressing them boldly, seriously, with intensity. And our Franchise Growth Vault program is all about high impact results in short periods of time. So imagine, we're using the vault concept and the secrets are in the vault. Imagine having a locksmith who's going to be able to break into that vault. Well, that's what Franchise Building Expert is. That's what our team is all about. We're the locksmiths. We've got the vault of solutions to your challenges. Talked about 2 or 3 of them today, but we've got the combination that's going to help you grow and scale your business. It's going to help you get your franchise brand off the plateau. So we'll help craft value propositions. We're going to help you build follow-up systems. We're going to help you with those disengaged leads and what's going to be of value to staying in touch with your dead leads, if you want to call them, but nothing's dead. We're going to help you face these things directly, high impact, quick results. So we call it the Franchise Growth Vault program. If you're interested, we can only handle 3 or 4 clients at a time in this program because of the high intensity, high impact nature. So the time is to act now. We're signing people up right now. So if you think this sounds great, at a minimum, go to the next step. We'll send you our 36 question pre-diagnostic tool. If nothing else, boy, this alone will get you thinking and looking at your brand and your business in a way that you've never done before. And then engage in a conversation with us. We'll have a diagnostic session. We'll look at the top 20% or 7 or 8 of the things that you've identified. You may relate to a lot of them, but we want to identify the 5, the 6, the 7, the 8 ones, and really have a session with you that helps diagnose some of the problems that you have identified. So connect with us. There's a way to do it on your screen. Connect with us. Set up that, well, again, by connecting with us here and setting up that appointment, we'll send you the 36 question pre-diagnostic tool. And let's start looking at what's going to help you start to make some moves and some changes that are going to have short-term but high impact results. So stop guessing about it, start growing, and just consider how many more sales are you going to lose before you do something about this. All right, so anyway, check in with us, as I said here. I appreciate your being on with us today. If you find value, again, please subscribe to the program at the YouTube program at Franchise Development on YouTube. Again, your success is not going to be about luck. It's going to be having the right advisors with the right tools and the right diagnosis to make a difference in your business.